It was supposed to be just another Thursday night. You know how it is. Long day at work, boots off, flannel on, and a beer with the boys down at Jack's bar. I'd been on my feet since 6 that morning, fixing a busted water heater in one of the rental properties I manage. By the time 5 rolled around, I was running on coffee, drywall dust, and whatever was left in the tank. Jack's ain't fancy. Neon lights buzz overhead, the booths are cracked, and if you drop your fork, you leave it there. But it's got cold beer, hot wings, and a jukebox that knows when to shut up. That night, it was me, Kenny, and Dale, my usual crew. We took our regular spot near the pool table. Cold pitcher between us, first round already halfway gone. Felt like home. Kenny was mid-story about his dog eating a sock. Again, when the front door opened. Jacks don't get many new faces, so I looked up, more out of habit than curiosity. And there she was, Amy, my wife, stepping into my bar like she owned the place, and she wasn't alone. The man beside her was taller than me. Clean cut, pressed shirt, slacks, that smug kind of handsome you see in ads for cologne. They were laughing. Real easy. Too easy. Amy had that look, the one I hadn't seen in years. The one that used to be mine. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Felt like the damn floor dropped out from under me. 1 second, I was chuckling at Kenny's story, and the next I was staring at my wife, dressed to the nines, walking into a bar we never once set foot in together, with a man who wasn't me. They didn't see me. Not right away. They walked right past our booth and sat down near the back, close to the jukebox. She ordered wine. Wine, in a place where the cleanest glass is still sticky. My mouth went dry. I reached for my beer, but didn't drink it. My hand just stayed there, resting on the handle, like maybe it'd hold me together. I didn't say anything, just stared. Kenny noticed first. "Hey man, you good?" I didn't answer him, just leaned in and said real quiet, "Get your phone out." He blinked. "What? Now? Take a picture." Her. The guy. Discreet. Don't let him see you. He didn't ask questions after that. Kenny might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's loyal. He angled himself, raised his phone like he was checking a text, and snapped one. Then another. Dale, bless him, shielded the view. Sat up straighter, blocked me with his back, so I could keep watching without being seen. I watched the way she leaned in when she laughed. The way she twirled her hair, tilted her head. It was all muscle memory, the moves she used to pull with me. Before the cold dinners and short answers. Before we became strangers under the same roof. The man said something that made her laugh again, and she touched his arm. That did it. I didn't yell. Didn't charge across the bar like a wild man. I just sat back, felt my heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. I looked down at my hands. They were steady, but I didn't feel steady. Kenny slid his phone across the table. 3 photos. All clear. All unmistakable. There was no denying it. Still, I didn't cause a scene. I stood up slow, grabbed my coat, tossed a 20 on the table, even though I hadn't touched a bite of the wings we ordered. The boys looked up at me. "You leaving?" Dale asked. I nodded. "Yeah." "You gonna say something to her?" I looked toward the back of the bar. She was still laughing, still leaning in close. Not a care in the world. "No," I said. "Not tonight." I walked out the back door. Didn't want to risk her seeing me. Cold air hit my face like a slap. I climbed into my truck and sat there, engine off, hands on the wheel, staring at the empty street. That was the moment something shifted in me. I didn't cry. I didn't cuss. I just sat there, feeling something crack, clean and quiet, like a branch snapping in winter. Whatever we had, it died in that bar. And the worst part? She didn't even notice. That night, I didn't sleep. Not a wink. I just lay there in bed, staring up at the ceiling fan as it spun slow and steady, like it didn't have a damn clue my world had shifted. Amy came home sometime around 11. Said she'd been at a coworker's birthday dinner. Gave me a kiss on the cheek like she always did, acted like everything was normal. And I let her. I rolled over, pretended to be half asleep, gave her a grunt, and not much else. But inside, my mind was racing like a freight train with no brakes. Every laugh I saw, every glance she gave that guy, played on repeat in my head. That smile, the same one she used to give me, now aimed at someone else. It was like watching your house burn down and not being able to do a thing but stand there. By morning, I already had a plan. I left for work early, stopped by a little electronics store on the edge of town. Guy behind the counter was young, tattooed, kind of twitchy. I told him I needed something simple, small, and quiet. He didn't ask questions. Sold me a GPS tracker no bigger than a deck of cards. Came with an app and everything. Battery life good for weeks. That evening, when Amy was in the shower, I slipped outside to her car. I knew her routines, knew she kept the spare key in the fake rock by the front porch. I popped the trunk and slid the tracker into a small gap behind the side panel. Would have taken a mechanic to find it. Nobody else would ever know it was there. The app on my phone lit up green once it paired. I named the dot Amy. Watching that little green circle move on the map gave me a strange feeling, like I finally had eyes on the truth. All I had to do was wait. And so I waited. For the next few days, I didn't say much. Just watched. She left at the same time every morning, came back around 6. Sometimes 7. Always had a reason, traffic, meetings, errands. Always believable. But the tracker? It told a different story. Most days, it checked out. Office, gas station, grocery store. But then came Friday. She kissed me goodbye at 7:45 a.m., said she might be late because of a conference call. Packed a little tote bag with her laptop and a change of shoes. I told her to drive safe. By noon, I opened the app. She was at her office. By 3:30, she was still there. By 5:45, that little green dot was sitting, still in the parking lot of a roadside motel about 15 miles from town. Real classy place, paint peeling off the sign, old chain-link fence around the lot, a vending machine out front that looked like it hadn't worked since '98. That was all I needed. I grabbed my Canon from the closet, the one Amy bought me for my birthday years ago. Said I had a good eye, back when we used to go hiking together. Funny how life turns out. I drove out there slow, took the back roads, circled the block twice before pulling into the lot of a gas station across the street. From there, I had a clear line of sight to the motel. I parked under a busted-out security light, angled my rearview mirror to see behind me, turned off the engine, sat still. The air was heavy. It was one of those spring evenings where the clouds roll thick and low, like they're holding their breath. I waited. Every minute dragged. My fingers tapped the steering wheel in slow rhythms. I kept checking the app, kept watching the green dot stay exactly where it was. I couldn't see much of the room from my spot, just the walkway and the door. But I knew she was in there. And so was he. Hour passed. Then another. It was just past 8:15 when the door finally cracked open. The hallway light flickered overhead, casting long shadows. First to step out was him. Same guy from the bar. Same smug expression like the world owed him nothing and gave him everything. Then she followed. Amy. She looked, relaxed. No rush in her step. She said something to him, and he laughed. Then he reached out, cupped her cheek, leaned in, and kissed her. Not a quick peck. Not a friendly goodbye. It was the kind of kiss that tells you everything you never wanted to know. I raised the camera, hands steady despite the fire boiling in my gut, and started clicking. Zoomed in. Caught the angle. The expressions. The touch. I got every damn frame. When they walked off together toward his truck, I put the camera down and sat in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. Just watched as the last shred of doubt I had got torn up right in front of me. I waited until they were gone, then started the engine and drove home with headlights off for half the way. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I knew something had shifted. She had no idea she'd been seen. And now I had the proof. The story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It had just begun. After that night at the motel, I spent most of the weekend in the garage. Tool bench, country radio, lights dim. I wasn't working on anything. Just pacing, sitting, thinking. That camera of mine sat on the counter like it was judging me. Every time I looked at it, I felt sick. I kept opening the pictures, zooming in. Her smile, his face, that hand of his, on her back, like he belonged there. I needed to know who he was. Now, I ain't exactly connected, but I got a buddy, name's Rick, who works patrol over in District 3. We used to hunt together. He helped me install the back deck a couple summers ago. Good guy, sharp, doesn't gossip. One of the few people I'd trust with something like this. I called him Sunday afternoon. Rick, you got a minute? I asked. Always. What's going on? I hesitated. You remember Amy? Sure, he said. Everything okay? I need a favor. Off the record. I sent him the photos. Just the ones from the motel. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to show the two of them together, faces clear as day. Rick didn't ask a single question. Just said, give me a day. I thanked him, hung up, and waited. I didn't tell him the whole story. I didn't have to. The photos did most of the talking. By Monday afternoon, he called me back. I ran him through a few sources, Rick said. Name's Brett Manning. Works over at Orion Consulting. Finance division. Same company as your wife. I felt like someone dumped cold water down my back. Coworker? I asked, even though I already knew. Yeah. Project manager. Been there about 5 years. No priors, nothing shady on the record. Just typical office guy. Drives a silver Audi. Lives out in North Creek. That hit harder than I expected. I don't know why. Maybe because it made the whole thing more real. It wasn't some stranger. It was a guy she saw every day. Someone she laughed with in meetings. Took lunch breaks with. Hell, maybe even brought up at dinner now and then. I probably smiled hearing his name once. That was the worst part. Once I had a name, I didn't waste time. I printed out every photo. Pinned down the GPS logs. Took screenshots of the car's tracker from that day. Circled the timestamps. I wanted it to be clean, sharp, irrefutable. Tuesday morning, I shaved, dressed sharp, pressed shirt, clean jeans, boots polished. I walked into her office building like I belonged there. I'd been by before. Company parties, holiday dinners. I knew the layout. Security desk barely looked up as I signed in under James Weston, a name I plucked out of thin air. Said I had an appointment with her department's director. I knew his name too, Elliot Marks. Met him once at their holiday party. He wore a sweater vest and laughed like a dying engine. Somehow, it worked. I got to the top floor, walked down the hall, knocked on the glass door of his office. He looked up from behind his desk, startled. Yes. You got a minute? I asked. He started to shake his head. You have a meeting? I stepped inside anyway, closed the door behind me, and locked it. Now, I ain't a big man, but I've got a certain presence when I'm not in the mood for games. He sat back, nervous. I'm Amy's husband, I said. That got his attention. I'm not here to yell. I'm not here to make a scene. I just want to show you something. And then I'll leave. He nodded slowly. I pulled the manila envelope from my coat, slid it across the desk. He opened it. Didn't say a word. Just flipped through the photos, each one hitting him like a rock skipping across a lake. I could see it in his eyes, the calculation. The risk. The embarrassment. I've got more, I said. But this is enough. He set the folder down. Sat back. You want him fired? No, I said. I want you to handle it. Quiet. No drama. No attention. He rubbed his chin, nodded. You realize this could be difficult. Not my problem. You let him walk with some dignity, come up with whatever excuse you want. Just get him out of here. And your wife. She stays. For now. That was the deal. He didn't fight it. Just gave me a tight-lipped nod and said it would be handled. By Friday, Brett Manning was gone. Fired over a mishandled client report in a pattern of negligence. His name vanished from the employee directory. His Audi didn't show up in the lot again. Amy stayed. But I could see it in her. She knew something was off. She walked slower. Smiled less. Her office gossip dried up at dinner. She asked if I was okay more often, like she could feel something slipping beneath the floor. I didn't answer her. Let her wonder. Let her stew. Because the man she was playing house with? He was gone. And she was still sitting in the house she broke, alone. The day after her little office romance got quietly erased, she came home like any other evening. Dropped her purse on the counter, kicked off her heels near the door. But something was off. Her voice had that edge to it. Like a storm cloud just waiting for an excuse to thunder. I asked her how work went, just to test the waters, and she snapped back with, fine. Same old. No details. No stories. Not even the fake cheerfulness she used to put on when she was hiding something. Just clipped, flat, cold. That was the start of it. Next few days, it got worse. Her mood had a sharpness to it, like walking barefoot over nails. Every little thing I did too loud when I shut the cabinet, too slow to answer a text, didn't fold the towels right, turned into an argument. She didn't raise her voice much, but she didn't have to. The venom was in her tone, the way her words cut straight to the bone. You always do that. Can't you just think for once? Why are you so quiet all the time? I kept my mouth shut. Let her unravel. Truth is, I didn't need to ask what was bothering her. I knew. Her little boyfriend was gone. Fired without fanfare. Just a closed-door meeting and a security escort to the parking lot. I don't know if he called her afterward or if he just ghosted the whole mess. Either way, something shifted in her. I saw it clear as day. The light in her eyes? Gone. The spring in her step? Dead and buried. One night, I heard her pacing in the kitchen after midnight. Just walking back and forth, slow and aimless, like her body hadn't figured out where to be now that the lies weren't working anymore. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her footsteps echo through the walls. Eventually, she sat down on the couch. Didn't turn on the TV. Just sat there, in the dark. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You ever seen a tire burst on the highway? 1 second, it's humming along just fine. And the next, boom. Rubber flaps around, metal scrapes, sparks fly, and the car jerks off course like it forgot what direction meant. That was Amy. She was spiraling, and I didn't lift a finger to stop it. By the second week, she stopped putting effort into anything. Hair stayed in a bun, makeup forgotten. Meals were half-hearted, frozen dinners, takeout containers, barely touched. She spent more time in the bedroom, curled up with her phone, scrolling like it held the answers. I caught a glance once, her messages open, no replies. Probably waiting for him to reach out. But that call wasn't coming. Every now and then, she'd try to bait me. Pick fights over nothing. The thermostat. The trash. One night, I left my boots by the back door, and she let out this huff like I'd wrecked the whole house. You think you can just leave your crap wherever you want? I looked at her. Calm. Flat. They're boots, Amy. Yeah. And this isn't a barn. She stormed off after that. Slammed the door to the bedroom like a teenager. I didn't follow. Just grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the porch, listening to the wind stir through the trees. It felt good out there. Peaceful. Like the house was starting to return to the quiet I used to love. She wasn't gone, not yet, but it was like she'd started to fade. Her presence got hollow. She moved through the house like a ghost wearing her own face. A shell of the woman I once thought I knew. And I watched it all. Every shift. Every sign. She started drinking wine in the evenings, more than usual. I'd hear the cork pop before sunset, and the bottle would be empty by bedtime. Some nights, I'd come home and find her crying in the bathroom with the water running, trying to cover it up like I couldn't hear. Still, I said nothing. That was the hardest part, maybe. Saying nothing. But I had to. Because this wasn't about yelling or accusations anymore. It was about letting the weight of her own choices drag her down, inch by inch. She'd built this fire. Now she was standing in it. And me? I was the one holding the hose, watching. Funny thing is, she never once asked me directly about the guy disappearing. Never brought him up, never said his name. Like if she kept quiet long enough, maybe it would undo itself. Maybe she thought I didn't know. But the silence between us had a shape to it. A heavy kind of silence. The kind that fills the air like fog, making everything harder to see but impossible to ignore. I went about my days like nothing changed. Work. Coffee. Dinners. Bills. But every time I looked at her across the table, I saw it. Guilt. Loneliness. Confusion. She didn't know what hit her, but she felt it. Felt it hard. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I wasn't the one falling apart. She was. After weeks of watching her unravel, I knew it was time to move. I'd seen enough. Heard enough. Felt enough. I wasn't angry anymore. Not like I was in that parking lot with the camera in my hand. That rage had settled into something colder. More focused. Like steel cooled in a bucket after the forge. I took a day off work, told I had appointments. Drove across town to an office park off I-72. Nothing fancy. White bricks, low shrubs, little plaque by the door. Evan M. Tate. Family law. Evan came recommended by a buddy of mine who went through his own mess a few years back. Said the guy didn't talk much, but he listened close and knew how to make things clean. That's what I needed, clean. He shook my hand firm, ushered me into his office. Shelves of legal books, a dusty American flag in the corner. Felt like an old-school man who still used paper ledgers. I like that. Tell me what you're looking to do, he said, opening a yellow pad. I told him the truth. Not every detail, not the mess behind it. Just the bones of it. That I wanted out. That I didn't want drama. That I wanted to protect what was mine and leave her what was legally hers. Nothing more, nothing less. He nodded like he'd heard it all before. You have proof of wrongdoing? I slid a small folder across the desk. Just enough in there to back my position. Photos. Dates. Tracker logs. Names. He flipped through them, eyebrows tightening. Well, he said, this helps. Then we got to work. I learned more about joint accounts and community property in 2 hours than I ever cared to. We talked through everything: house, vehicles, pensions, savings. What to freeze. What to shift. What to separate. That night, I started closing the doors behind me. First, the bank. We had 3 accounts together. I pulled out my portion of our main savings and opened a new account at a different bank, one she'd never think to look at. Just my name on it. Set up the transfer late at night when she was in the shower. Next came the credit cards. I called each one, checked the balances, and closed the ones with zero or little activity. Froze the rest. I didn't want her running up charges on a card I was still tied to. Nothing flashy. Just quiet, measured steps. The utilities came next. I rerouted bills that were in my name to my new email. Changed logins. Passwords. Security questions. Used an old P.O. box I'd kept from my hunting license days. Every piece of mail that used to land on our shared kitchen counter now came to me, and me alone. I started taking cash out in small amounts. Nothing suspicious. 20 here, 40 there, whenever I filled the truck. Kept it in a lockbox under the seat. Not because I was paranoid, but because I knew how quick things could turn once the truth came out. Amy didn't notice a thing. She was too busy being miserable. Still caught up in her fog, still pouring wine at 6 like it was medicine. Some nights, she didn't say a single word to me. Other nights, she tried small talk, questions about work, but I kept it light. Nods. Shrugs. No reason to open doors that were already closing. One evening, she asked, "Are we okay?" I looked her in the eye. "Yeah, we're fine." And that was it. No follow-up. No fight. Just the kind of lie that's smooth enough to get past someone who's too tired to check. The paperwork came in a plain envelope. Evan had put it all together, neat and legal. Nothing aggressive. Nothing petty. Just what was fair. My name. Her name. The lines between them drawn in black ink. I kept it in the drawer of my nightstand, under an old fishing magazine, right next to the watch my dad gave me when I turned 30. I didn't show it to her. Not yet. This part wasn't about confrontation. It was about positioning. About making sure, when the time came, there'd be no scramble, no surprises. She'd taken enough already: time, trust, truth. I wasn't about to let her take my future too. The hardest part? Acting normal. Waking up. Making coffee. Letting her complain about traffic or work while I buttered toast. Pretending I didn't see right through her. Pretending I didn't already have one foot out the door. But every time I signed a new form, made a quiet call, closed a shared loop, I felt lighter. One less thing tying me to a woman I no longer recognized. One step closer to the clean break I needed. And I was going to make damn sure it was clean. The morning I made the call, the sky was clear. One of those crisp spring days where the sunlight feels honest, too honest. I sat in the truck with the windows rolled halfway down, listening to the birds carry on like the world didn't have any secrets left. Her boss's number was already in my phone. I'd saved it from the night I visited his office, back when I laid the whole truth on his desk and watched his eyes do the math. I figured it was time to collect on that quiet deal we'd made. He picked up on the third ring. "This is Elliot." "It's me," I said. "Amy's husband." He didn't sound surprised. Just quiet. I could hear the scratch of a pen on paper stop. "I need to ask a favor." He waited. "I want you to let her go. Quietly. No fireworks. Just make it look clean." There was a pause. A long one. Then a slow breath through the receiver. "You sure about this?" "Been sure for a while." Another silence. Then, "All right. Leave it with me." I didn't say thank you. Didn't say goodbye. Just ended the call, sat there a while with the truck idling. My fingers tapped the steering wheel, steady. I wasn't nervous. I'd been nervous weeks ago, sitting in that motel parking lot with my heart hammering like a jackrabbit. Now it was all dust settling. I went home and took my time with the next part. The divorce papers were already signed. Evan Tate had made sure every line was straight and every detail legal. I'd read them over a dozen times. I folded them neatly, slid them into the envelope, and set it on the kitchen table where she usually dropped her keys. Next to it, I placed a note. Just one sentence. Nothing dramatic. Just the truth, plain and cold. I knew everything from the beginning. It was a game, and you lost. I didn't add my name. Didn't need to. After that, I didn't wait around. I packed a small bag, just a change of clothes and a few essentials, and left the house. I went to a friend's cabin out by the lake. Told him I needed a weekend to clear my head. He didn't ask why. Just tossed me the key and pointed me toward the woodpile in case I wanted to build a fire. That afternoon, around 4, my phone buzzed. It was her. 3 missed calls, 1 voicemail. Then another call. I didn't answer. I sat out on the porch of that cabin with a cup of black coffee going cold in my hands and listened to the wind rattle through the pines. The sky had turned gray. One of those slow-moving clouds that takes its time swallowing the sun. Eventually, I listened to the voicemail. She was crying. I don't know what happened, she said. They just said there was a reorganization, that I wasn't needed anymore. Her voice cracked. Can you call me? She didn't mention the envelope, but I knew she'd seen it. When I returned home the next day, the house was quiet. Real quiet. The kind that sits in the bones. Her car was parked in the driveway, but she wasn't in the kitchen. The envelope was gone. The note, too. I found her sitting in the den, arms crossed tight over her chest, eyes rimmed red. She looked like someone who hadn't blinked in hours. Why? She asked. I didn't sit. Didn't lean on the wall. Just stood there, still. You already know why, I said. Her jaw trembled. You planned this? Every bit of it. She looked away, lips pressed thin like she was biting back every excuse she hadn't dared say out loud. You could have said something, she whispered. I nodded. Could have. But then it wouldn't have landed. She didn't speak after that. Didn't have to. There's a look someone gives when they know the hand they were playing just got turned inside out. No bluff. No chips left. Just two cards, both useless, laid out for the whole table to see. I left her there. Didn't need to watch her fall apart again. That part was done. I stepped outside, took a long breath, and let the quiet settle around me. The trap was sprung, and it had caught exactly what it needed to. The days after she read that note were loud. Not with shouting, at least not from me. I didn't have anything left to say. But her? She was a firestorm. I guess she thought I'd eventually sit down and talk it through like nothing had happened. Like everything could just be glued back together if we threw enough words at it. She called. Left voicemails. Some angry, some pathetic. Some switching between the two in the same breath. You're being unfair. Let's talk. You're just trying to punish me. You think you're so smart. You don't know the full story. Yes, I did. I knew all of it. And for once, I didn't need her permission to move on it. She tried everything short of begging in the driveway, but I was already out of reach. My money was gone from the shared accounts. I'd moved it all weeks before. The cards were dead. She couldn't drain anything. Couldn't touch the savings I worked 20 years to build. I kept my phone on Do Not Disturb and stayed away from home more than I stayed in it. Sometimes I'd drive out to the old range just to sit in the quiet. No targets. No talking. Just me and the wind through the long grass. The day I sent the photos to her parents, I felt a little bad, but only for a second. They were decent folks. Old school. Kinda stiff, but they always treated me fair. Her dad even helped us put in the patio when we first moved in. We grilled steaks on it that night, thinking about how we'd have a couple kids running across it someday. Guess that wasn't in her plans. I printed the pictures out, slid them in an envelope, along with a note, short and simple. I thought you should know who she really is. R. I didn't sign it as their son-in-law. Didn't need to. I was done with that chapter. Didn't hear a thing back. Didn't expect to. But I figured if she was going to torch the life we built, her parents ought to see the smoke too. 6 months passed. The court date came on a gray Tuesday. It was the kind of morning where everything felt damp, like the air itself couldn't make up its mind. I wore a simple navy jacket and a clean pair of slacks. I didn't bring anyone with me. Didn't need backup. This wasn't a fight. It was a signing off. She was already in the courtroom when I walked in. Same red coat she wore the night I caught her at the bar. I don't know if she wore it on purpose or if she just didn't have anything else left that fit right. Her hair was tied back tight, face pale, lips pressed like she was trying to hold something in. She saw me and her face twisted. I don't know what she expected. Maybe she thought I'd look broken, beat down. But I wasn't. I was clear-eyed and calm. When the judge called the case, we both stood. Her lawyer, some fresh-faced kid in a cheap suit, fumbled through a binder, trying to argue for a bigger share. Tried to spin some sympathy. But the judge had already read the documents. The evidence. The photos. The timeline. It was all in there. When it was my turn, I didn't say much. I let Evan handle the talking. I just stood straight and looked the judge in the eye when she asked me if I had anything else to add. No, Your Honor, I said. I think everything's been said. That's when Amy lost it. She jumped to her feet, started yelling. Something about betrayal, about lies, about how I ruined her life. The bailiff stepped forward, slow but ready. The judge raised a hand. Ma'am, you will sit down or be removed from this courtroom. But she wasn't done. She lunged toward me. Not fast enough to be dangerous, but fast enough to make a damn fool of herself. The bailiff caught her by the arm, pulled her back just as she swung an open hand toward me. Didn't connect. Didn't even get close. But the look in her eyes, it wasn't anger. It was panic. The kind people get when they realize they're drowning and no one's diving in to save them. The judge wasn't impressed. She was held in contempt. 15 minutes in a holding room to cool off, and the rest of the hearing went forward without her. The House? Split 50-50ths on paper, but I'd already made peace with that. I'd found a small place across town, nothing fancy, but it had a good porch and a solid roof. It was mine. Paid for. Clean slate. Alimony? Denied. She had no job. No references. No support from her old workplace, not after everything that came to light. The judge said the situation was self-inflicted. That was the word she used. Self-inflicted. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just gathered my copies of the documents, shook Evan's hand, and walked out into the parking lot. The rain had started falling. Just a mist, soft as cotton. I stood there for a moment and took a breath so deep it felt like the first one I'd taken in a year. It was done. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't tied to anyone or anything that didn't deserve me. A year had passed. I was living in a small two-bedroom on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Brick walls, tin roof, backyard big enough for a fire pit and a folding chair. I'd built it out just the way I liked, tools hung on the garage wall in neat rows, pantry stocked with what I needed, coffee always strong. No tension. No raised voices. No guessing games. Peace has a sound, you know? It's the hum of your truck cooling off in the drive. It's the creak of the floor when no one's stomping through it in a hurry. It's your own voice in your own space, quiet but steady. I'd taken up old hobbies again, whittling, fishing off the dock at Lake Browning, fixing up a busted chainsaw just for the hell of it. Nights were calm. Mornings were clean. I didn't think about her much anymore. Not with bitterness, anyway. Just absence. That Tuesday night, rain was coming down soft and steady. I had the back door cracked open, letting the air in while I worked through a bowl of chili and some late baseball on the radio. Then came the knock. Not a hard one. Just 3 slow taps, like whoever was out there wasn't even sure they should be. I stood up, wiped my hands on a dish towel, and opened the door. There she was. Amy. Hair pulled back, face pale, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. She looked thinner, worn down, like life had been riding her hard and hadn't let up since. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, dripping wet, hands clenched at her sides. Finally, she spoke. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't answer. I've got nothing left, she said. No job, no apartment. My folks won't even call me back. I messed up. I know that. Her voice cracked right there at the end. I just thought, maybe if there was a chance, if you could forgive me, just one more shot. Please. The porch light flickered. The rain tapped on the gutter behind her. I stood there, arms at my sides, heart not racing, not aching, just still. I looked her in the eye, long and hard. And I said, calm as anything, you chose this life. Now live with it. It's got nothing to do with me. She didn't cry harder. Didn't scream. Just stood there, the weight of it all hitting her in full. Then she turned and walked away. No last word. No second knock. I watched her go until the rain swallowed her silhouette down the drive. And that was it. I never saw her again. That, right there, was the price of betrayal. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was the revenge too cold or just right? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.